Hello everyone, welcome to episode 45 with live with Sirus Migration and Education. Last couple of weeks for the end of the year in December. So we would like to talk about all the migration updates you have and if there's any concerns you have. But today's main topic, as we advertised, going to be about 186 direct entry program, which allows you to go to permanent residency through employee nominated pathways where you do not require any points to face with, and much simpler than some people say it's easier than general skill migration, where you don't have to go through a point test and state nomination, etc. And also, just before we start that, as we advertise again, we'll be talking about the major changes that came to 485 or the temporary graduate visa program, Subclass 485. So, as we always start, my name is Ashani Yapa. I'm an Australian registered migration agent, and sitting right next to me, my lovely wife, Ashani Yapa, also an Australian registered migration agent.
Hello everyone. I think we will start by talking about Subclass 485. That's the biggest news out there these days. We are getting so many phone calls from our confused applicants and clients who are not sure here.
What it is.
Exactly. So we thought we will clear it all for you. So on 25th of November, which was I think the last Thursday, this was announced that a few changes happening to Subclass 485. Number one change is, if you have studied in Australia a Master's by Research,
you used to get
3 years.
3 years of 485.
2 years of 485. Now it's going to, if you studied Masters by Research, it's 3 years, but if you studied Masters by Coursework, you used to get only 2 years of Subclass 485 visa.
Same
just
as your
like
bachelor's
a normal
degree.
Bachelor's degree, 2 years, post-study stream. But now the change already happened actually, because we have had grants already. If you studied Masters by Coursework, that means just any Masters of 2 years or more. You will now get 3 years visa. And we have already had grants, which means this change has already come into effect.
So the good news is, like, even if you applied for this 485 visa beforehand, because this is beneficial to the applicant, the grants already comes as 2 years. So
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
So back in earlier, if you're a master's in coursework or bachelor, if you completed a bachelor's degree, you did not have to go through the skill assessment. You could apply for, by completing the course, you could apply for the 485 or the temporary resident visa, and you used to get only 2 years unless you were in research 3 years. Master's by research 3 years. Now, regardless of whichever the course, master's course you've done, as long as it is 2 years master's course, you can then apply for the 485 visa for 3 years. So when we say 2 years, the requirement is CRI course registered for minimum of 92 weeks. So you could, in physical months, you can complete the course within 16 to 18 months, but you can still apply for this. If you need further clarification, personalized to you, be in touch. We'll discuss this further. So that's the master's course update. And we have another good update.
So the second update for people who studied trade courses and trying to apply for this visa undergraduate work stream. So this, they used to get visa for 18 months or 1.5 years, and this is going to change from 1st of December 2021, which is yesterday. You will now get visa for 2 years. So that's a big change.
That's absolutely a wonderful news for a lot of people, because where the problem laid down for people who were expecting to go through permanent residency after their education's completed, one of the problems they had was they were only limited for general skill migration pathways. When you were to go into 482 pathways, back in the days when it was 457, you could complete your studies and go find a job. You could apply for 457 work visa. But right now, when you go into 482, you're required to have minimum of 2 years work experience. So I spoke to a client this morning as well. The best thing is, as soon as you finish, whether you're a vocational student or a higher education student, you should, as soon as you finish your education, you should start looking for a job that gives you a minimum of 20 hours a week, preferably not casual, because casual work hours don't count towards 482 or the work visa. So with this way, we can apply for 482 visa. If you have previous work experience, 186 visa, or even Mario's very active and I can't.
Even not just the 482 and 186, actually, it will also benefit people who are actually going through the Job Ready program to try and get a skills assessment for general skill migration, because the Job Ready program itself can take just about or just over a year. So you're only getting visa for 1.5 years, and you will not be fully skilled for a year of that visa period. So you only pretty much have 6 months to get ready and apply for a nomination and get a nomination granted. So I think this is going to be a big change, especially for wet sector graduates and also master's graduates, and it will benefit the economy as well as the applicants hugely. So we are excited and waiting to see how this will impact both the applicants and the economy.
The biggest major changes through the 485 is for students who are international students who are completing their course. If you're in wet sector, instead of 18 months temporary residence, you'll now be getting 24 months. If you have completed a master's degree by coursework, the next grant's going to be a 3-year course. And there is one other change with 485. If you had a 485 and if you were stuck or stranded outside of Australia, you can have a replacement visa, which is another great news for clients who are stuck on their 485, who didn't listen to us when we said don't go out in the pandemic
pretty
time.
Much, if you were holding a 485 visa and you're offshore, if your visa expired on or after 1st of February 2021, from 1st of July 2022, you can apply for a replacement visa of the same duration of your last visa. So let's say a PhD graduate got a 4-year visa, but they were stranded offshore, they'll get a 4-year visa. If you had a 2-year visa, you'll get a 2-year visa. If you had a 1.5-year visa, you'll get a 1.5-year visa. Just a replacement of exactly what you had before.
So this 485 also, just to demystify if you didn't know about it, 485 is an opportunity for certain students who have completed around 2 years of studies in Australia to be qualified, and it's people call it temporary resident or TR, just because it's like a permanent residency. You get pretty much all your benefits in. You have unlimited work rights. You can study. You can do whatever. You don't have a lot of restrictions in this visa, but it is limited for 18 months or 24 months. This is only a once a lifetime opportunity. So whenever you use this opportunity, you have to have a good permanent residency pathway or a good migration advice behind you, because this cannot be repeated, and certain people lose the opportunity if you use it the wrong way around. So if you have migration pathways, make sure you plan it properly with a qualified, well understood migration agent before you use this program as well, because sometimes when I speak to my clients, I tell them you're qualified for the visa, but it is not the time for you to apply for this visa, because there's not going to be a next step for you. So just it's hard for me to explain it why you shouldn't be using it right now for in a general manner. So for the presentation sake, I guess it depends on individual circumstances. So if you require how it can relate to you, I think the best option is for you to be in touch with us or any qualified good registered migration agent to design your migration pathway. I guess that brings us to the next level.
Let's move on to subclass 186.
186 direct entry. So this is I think Mario's got a really nice presentation drafted there. When I say Mario and Lena, don't want to upset the team. So this is outside of the point test. So if you are thinking about migrating to Australia into a permanent residency through general skill migration, and you were worried about all the numbers and the points that you acquire, you don't need points for this. What you need is certain qualifications. So this is, if you're qualified with your occupation, this is a very good opportunity.
Mario, maybe the next
slide. We'll talk about 186 direct entry right now. 186 direct entry.
Before we go there, actually, so subclass 186 pretty much has 3 main streams. Still, it all goes under the same subclass 186. Number 1 is the direct entry, the most famous and the most applied for, I believe. And number 2 is the TRT, the temporary resident transition. It's number 3 in there, which means you have to be working for your current employer under a subclass 482 or subclass 457, the temporary work visa, for a certain amount of time before you can apply for 186. So that's the difference between direct entry and TRT. And the other stream is the labor agreement. I think in our future sessions we will go deep into the second and third streams as well, but as for today we are going to be talking about the direct entry
when you
stream.
talk about direct 186 labor agreements or TRT, you should have been in a 482 visa for a while, or you should have been in a qualifying visa pre-hand before you can apply for these categories. 186 direct entry, you don't have to be. All you need is to be qualified for 186 direct entry program. So it's a permanent residence visa. You can be eligible for this visa straight away if you fulfill these requirements. And also, most important part is you must have an employer who's willing to sponsor you for this visa or nominate you for this visa. So let's see what you need to, what requirements you need to have to get the 186 TRT, what you need to fulfill. First thing first, you must have an eligible occupation. Direct entry program, you must have a job or an occupation within the medium to long term skill
so
shortage
you must
list.
be working in an occupation that is in the medium to long term list, and you must have a relevant work experience. When we say relevant work experience, it doesn't have to be exactly in your occupation. For example, if you're a general accountant, you may have work experience as a taxation accountant. So that is relevant.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be in your nominated occupation. It's really good if it is, but if it's not, and if it's very highly relevant, those work experience can also be counted towards the work experience. But you do need to have the skill assessment in your nominated occupation though. You can't have the skill assessment in the relevant occupation.
Another good example is where it conflicts is if your experience is in cook, and if you're trying to get a work experience as a chefs got the eligibility to go to 186 direct entry program, whereas cooks don't.
Yeah.
So even though they sounds very close, people think it's just going cooking. It's not the same thing.
Yeah,
so
and they're not highly relevant either.
Cooks' responsibilities are largely varies from chefs' occupations. So you need to pick up the right occupation from the best guidance is go have a look at the occupations listed in medium to long term occupation list. And then people get confused with PMSOL these days. PMSOL complies with occupations, or it's a further strained occupation list from medium to long occupation list. You have added benefits if you have your occupation in PMSOL. Primary migration skill occupation list, which is about 42 occupations, I think we'll run by later on. So your files can get, your applications can get prioritized and expedited in processing. That sort of benefits you get. You can fly within with an travel exemption within the border closures sort of thing. But it's not limited to 42 for 186 direct entry. It goes to through the whole medium to long-term skill shortage list. And the next part is one of the very important part you must have with 186 direct entry.
Critical and the most complicated part, I guess, of the two parts of the visa.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So 186 direct entry, you must have 3 years work experience. So in your occupation, and this has to be the way when it comes to the work experience, where it varies to 482, 186 has to be post-qualification work experience.
Skilled.
So if you're an accountant, you must be working as an accountant after you qualified or completed your bachelor's degree, not while you even if you did the same level of duties while you're studying, it cannot be counted. So it has to be post qualification. If you're a chef or a cook, cook, we just got it. Chefs, you cannot
so you need to
count
have a
the time.
certificate for or diploma qualification before we start counting your work experience. So that's very important to know, and the work experience must be full time. It can't be part-time work experience.
35 hours a week.
Depending on the occupation.
Absolutely.
It could be 35 to 38 hours a week.
Yeah.
So 3 years, but do keep in mind though, this work experience does not have to be with the same employer who's sponsoring you. That's a question I get asked every day. No, you don't have to be working for your current employer who's going to sponsor you. This could be an employer that you have never seen before. You have the skill, you have the work experience. Now you get approached by an employer in Australia. You've never been to Australia, but this employer wants to sponsor you. It's possible.
And
you
3
don't
years
need
can
to be
be
working for this employer.
3 years can be counted. 3 years can be counted through multiple employers as well.
Yeah.
So you could be working with us for 6 months, working for competitors for 8 months, and blah blah blah.
And it could be anywhere in the world. It could be in a few different countries, as long as you can show your pay evidence, and some money coming in, some tax paid, that kind of evidence supported by work reference letters. This experience can be counted.
Within 5 years, doesn't?
No, not for 186. For 485, 482, it has to be within 5 years, but 186 can be.
And you can count the breaks as well. It doesn't like you can work for someone within the qualification for 6 to 12 months, and or you've done it and you've taken a 6 months break.
Continuous.
Then that's fine too. So there are different complications and incentives there. So if you have any questions in this line, be in touch again.
Yeah.
And
but there is a work,
one other important part is the next bit: licensing and registration or membership. So accountants as a qualification or a chef as a qualification doesn't matter. But when it comes to where we having difficulties is sometimes you get nurses comes to you and say, I have 3 years work experience overseas, can I apply for this? But not until you get Australian nursing registration, or plumbers, electricians, So you need to have an Australian registration or a licensing before you can apply. Accountants, engineers, you don't face this problem. Chefs, you don't face this problem.
It's only the occupations where in Australia you need a license to perform your duties.
So that's very important to go through as well. And the next important thing is the skills assessment. You need to have a full skill assessment. This skill assessment is not the same as PSA 485 skill assessment. This has to be the full skill assessment. You need to. It is mandatory for you to go through the relevant assessing authority and get your skills assessment done
before we even lodge the nomination. So that is one of the first steps of the process.
So this is where it also varies from 186 at TRT program to 186 direct entry program. So direct entry program requires you to have 3 years work experience, and 186 TRT doesn't. One of the complications or confusions sometimes people face is most of the skill assessing authorities do not list the number of years in the skills assessment. So sometimes some of our clients, when they come in, they say, I went through ACS is one of the skills assessing authority who list how many years of work experience they assess. So some people, they have their 3 years work experience, or they've done skill assessment earlier. They have 2.5 listed in the skills assessment, and then they completed another 6 months work experience afterwards. They're asking, do I need to go through another skills assessment? Absolutely not. So as long as the skill assessment is within the valid period, and also it is recognized by, it is being completed by the relevant authority, all you need to is present it, and then you have to show the work experience separately. So that's something we always have been asked by our clients. So that's a clarification for you. Again, requirements for relevant work assessing authorities are different from each one to the other. Certain authorities require you to have 1 year full-time work experience before you can apply. Some people ask for 2 years. Certain authorities do not even require any work experience after the, like engineers, you do not require to have any work experience after the qualification, because majority of your degrees includes hands-on work experience in your third year or third semester, etc. So Engineers Australia is, as long as you've been graduated through a recognized institute, you do not have to have work experience post-qualification. This is where it comes really valuable for certain people who's doing vocational education towards the qualifications such as telecommunication engineering, civil engineering draft persons. Those qualifications do not require you to have 1 year work experience post to your course qualification. So there's a lot to be discussed in this sector, but if you need any clarification so relevant to your occupation, be in touch again. We will talk to you individually. And
so the next requirement is the
pivot
nomination.
point. This is the pivot point of 186, 482, 494. You can have all that as long until you find an employer who's willing to sponsor you. Everything else is not relevant, because this is, remember, employer nominated schemes. So
for this you need an Australian employer. It has to be an Australian company, can't be an overseas company, who's willing to give you a job, pay you the annual market salary rate, at least a 2-year contract, permanent full-time, and actually give their documentations and prove to the immigration that you are the right person. It used to be they did not have to do a labor market testing or post a job ad. Now they have to do post a job ad. even though it's not as complicated as the 482, they still have to show that they tried to find someone local, but they couldn't. So they are nominating you as the nominee or the applicant to lodge the visa. So that's a very, very simplified version of the nomination. A lot of documents involved, lot of processes involved. But this process, if you can get through that process, your visa, I think pretty much would be 80% done. Because they do check the employer and they do check the employee at the nomination stage to make sure that they are both eligible. That's when the department will approve on nomination.
So if you come, that's the majority of the requirements for this visa. The rest is mostly the normal housekeeping for most of these general skill migration and employee nominated. So you need to be under 45 years of age. Again, you have exemption for this. Exemptions are if you university lecturer, scientists, researchers, you have this. And also if you're above 45 with the permanent residency pathway for employee nominated, you have Dharma programs and other programs available too. So don't stress too much, but it's again finding out which way you do it.
Yeah, but the basic eligibility age is 45 when you're lodging the visa.
Absolutely. Sometimes when you do 485, sometimes that's one of the negotiations with your employer as well. If you're above 42, you would rather speak with the employer and have some discussions around can we do the 186 direct entry if you're eligible right now, then going through the 482 pathway, because you want to make sure you're not overly aged at the time of your application. So 45, but again, as we said, there are other
some
exemptions.
Concessions, yeah. And then the next big thing I think would be the English. We didn't talk about English, did we?
English is coming up after the health and Australian values, but let's since Ashani spoke about it, English
is one of the other big requirements.
Yeah. You're required to have 6 in each band or in IELTS, so competent English.
So which is equivalent to either from PTE or IELTS, or if you have a passport of certain countries, then you're exempted from this requirement. But other than that, you need to have competent English. And also, if you have a partner or a wife or a husband or de facto partner or children who are over 18, all of these secondary applicants must have functional English, or you need to pay the secondary visa application fee.
Which is about $4,000 something.
It's about $4,000 something. And with the functional English, your English, the competent English is valid for 3 years. So it could have been done any time in the past 3 years. But functional English is only valid for 12 months. So your dependent's English must have been done in the last 12 months.
So remember with 186 direct entry, it cannot be more than 3 years. But when you do a PTE exam, down the results is down the bottom. It says valid only for 2 years. That's for academic purposes in certain countries and certain institutes. But migration purposes, this is commonly asked question. If you use it for migration purposes, you can use it for 3 years. Again, unless your occupation requires so, you only need to have, if it's IELTS, 6 in each band. As Ashani said, it's competent English. I know I used to remember what's the PTE requirement last week, but I can't remember.
Work it out, I guess. PT is
Google
changing
it.
every week.
What's competent English in?
I think it's 50.
Yeah,
50 each is PTE.
Yeah.
All right. So the other requirements are the
you need to be in good health and character.
Basic. What do you call them?
Basic requirements. I mean, most of the Australian visas require you to go through this, and also you have to sign a Australian value statement saying you respect Australian beliefs and values. And
no debts to the government.
If you have debts to the government, you have to pay it back. That's when you been naughty while you were in a student visa, you left out some bills, ATO bills, etc. like that, then you have to fix them. And also, if you're in Australia, you must have not have visa refusal. So if there's any bars, you shouldn't be like sometimes 40-10, 40-20, certain bars are there imposed to certain applicants when you get the visa refused or cancelled on shore. So that restrict from you for applying for certain visas on shore and also offshore. But 186 can override most of these visas unless you've gone through section 116 or so, where you have used fraudulent documents and got your visa cancelled on those grounds, etc. So this is a very good visa that allows you to still apply for this visa over certain bars like section 48, etc. But still have to be offshore.
I think that's about it. If we narrow it down, I'm sure we have many questions. Hopefully most of them are about 186. It doesn't matter. If you have any migration related questions, just feel free to type them. We will try to answer as many questions as we
type it
can.
In the comment section down below, so we can discuss some of the circumstances relevant to yourself. And also I forgot to tell you before, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, hit that subscribe button now, or like our page now, so that way you will be notified each time when we bring up latest Australian migration related information. And also you'll be notified each time when we go live, normally on Thursdays. Every Thursday we come up with latest updates or improving your knowledge about certain visas. But today we came at 1 o'clock, just past 1 o'clock, because due to certain commitment we have. Otherwise we'll be in Australian Eastern Standard Time, on Brisbane time. We come online at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, so let's go to some questions, Lena.
Let's go to Facebook first and then YouTube quickly. Pradeep Chapa guy.
Okay. Pradeep's asking a really good question.
Very good
Thank
question.
you, Pradeep. Cook can apply for 186 as it is on STSOL list.
Short-term
So your
skill
answer is
occupation.
right there. Because Cook is on STSOL list, no, you cannot apply for 186.
Direct entry.
Only applicants whose occupation is in MLTSS list or the medium to long-term list can apply for 186.
And also, if you're a cook and if you have the background, the best way for you to get through is to look for a regional occupation. So regional job through 494, and then get the permanent residency through 191.
Yeah, we've got Devi Singh, this is in YouTube, asking, will borders be opening on 15th of December? Fingers crossed, we hope so.
Yeah, we expect the borders to be open on 15th. Well, it's been announced, and our Honourable Prime Minister put out a very strong wording the other day saying whatever that new variant is, his Omri something, is not going to change the decision of opening the borders on 15th. So they're going to go according to the plans. It's used to be first.
Let's
So
wait and see. Hopefully it'll be the 15th now.
yeah, so but I've been talking with Queensland government education providers as well as certain other universities, etc. We have seen grants straight away for visa grants straight away with a lot of positive attitude
We
for
had
some
some
who are
485 grants even today.
enrolled
Offshore.
for courses and who have been studying in offshore as well, and they've got the first priority to come to Australia. So if you're having plans to study, don't delay it. It's the best time. And also bit of the topic, I've been just before I came to this meeting, I was meeting with Education Queensland, EQI, Queensland Government Schools, from the Queensland So the EQI represent all the schools in Queensland where they can accept students from overseas. A lot of people think when you plan yourself to study in Australia, you have to come here to study a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD or higher education. Some countries you can come to study English only. So that is not correct. You can come to Australia to study, say, from grade 6 onwards. And one good thing is you can come to study in Australia with one of your parents as well. So they can be there supporting you all the way up until you turn 18. Not all the schools are included. All the qualified schools are listed in Queensland, in Tasmania, in Victoria, and also there are a list of private schools who can participate in this journey as well. And if I'm mindful of those countries who students have still not yet been to school for year and a half and struggling to go to school. So in that way, Australia and especially Queensland's been blessed. We didn't have that much downturn in studies that way. So if you're having difficulties with this subject and if you're planning to send your child to grade 7 onwards, the schools are still open. The education system supports it as well. If you want to know how and if you want any support, please feel free. Whether you're joining us from a Pacific Rim country or Asian country or European country, we can support you wherever you're coming from. Gone off the track a bit, get back to Rahel in YouTube. Why are not invites for software engineers in New South Wales? What are the chances for 90 plus 5 for 190? I guess in New South Wales for software engineers. 95 is a good point.
That's a really good point.
You should have good opportunity. 189, hard to tell, Rahel. 189 is very strange.
Strict. And definitely the quota won't be increased this financial year. Maybe they will get some interim quota, but then the quota for next financial year will most likely be
we work
more.
with multiple corporate IT clients, and software engineer, don't forget 189, 190 is not the only option. You got 482, 186. Please go into LinkedIn, go into Seek, look out for job opportunities if you have at least 2 years work experience.
And
because
looks
2
like
years
he's already working anyway.
Yeah,
he's trying for 190 in New South Wales. So talk to your employer and see if there is a pathway for them to sponsor you.
Sometimes because employers not the paradigm or they have not done it before, they might think it's a big hard issue. That's where we come in as well. We can simplify it. We can take out all the documentary headache for them, and we can explain it and simplify it for them. So if you have any issues, please be in touch and we will simplify your journey more.
Yeah, I've got James asking any updates for offshore GSM. Hopefully once the borders open, there we will have some better news for offshore people. So stay tuned. Early next year we might have some.
Don't forget,
news.
if you have IELTS 7.5 plus and 8 years of work experience, South Australia is also open for
some
occupations. I think it was about 70 plus occupations in South Australia. So if your occupation's there, you have 8 years plus work experience and IELTS 7.5, which is also proficient plus English, then you have opportunities for offshore already in South Australia.
So I've got B. Miredi asking, I've been studied in regional area and stayed in regional on my 485, but because of travel restriction, I haven't come back to Australia and my 485 was expired, which is nearly 15 months. Once I come back to Australia on 485 visa extension, can I still apply for second post-study work visa? Should be fine as long as you fulfill the requirement in your second 485 extension. Okay. And I've got new UC asking, is PTE or IELTS required for ACS skill assessment? Need help? One of the migration agent in India calling up every day and not wanting me to wait for PTE. ACS does not require English. That's right. Engineers Australia requires English. I've got Aman Bari asking, what are the chances of university lecturer as offshore applicant with 80? This score excludes spouse, VET and state nomination score. What are the chances of university lecturer come in the list again? Very hard to predict, but keep an eye on. Maybe next financial year's list would have more offshore occupations and occupations like this.
I mean, if you heard our presentation about 186 just before, university lecturers have good opportunities and good incentive program, but as we said, the pivot point is the employer. So you need to talk to you need to apply for university jobs available and see if any of these universities or higher education providers are willing to offer you any of these one of the job opportunities for you, and then you can apply for university lecturers through the employee nomination pathway rather than the general skill migration. And also, depending on what sort of disciplines you have these days, universities free writing university courses as well, depending on your background, what sort of courses you've been teaching, you might have good opportunities. So keep talking to the universities and higher education providers as well.
I've got Rakesh asking, if I'm studying Bachelor in Accounting but working in hospitality field for 5 years, can I apply for 186? I need to know more information. So if you're working as an accountant in hospitality, that is fine. But I want to know what is your occupation in hospitality and how relevant that is to the course you've studied. So get in touch with us, send us your CV, and we will give you, we do provide free initial consultation for subclass 482, 186 or the work visa. So we are happy to give you a free consultation.
And if you're in onshore having difficulties finding a job, we might be able to forward your information and do an introduction on behalf of you, of course, without any cost to you, to relevant certain people, because I've got list of corporate clients that of ours are looking for hospitality qualified employees. So if you have accounting plus hospitality background, I've got a perfect employer who's looking for your qualification. They're willing to sponsor if you're onshore and give you the job opportunity.
Us,
share your CV and be in touch if you're keen to do it.
I've got Katija asking, does the company that are going to sponsor you have to have a number of Australian employees before sponsoring you? Not for all the occupations. There are some occupations with caveats where they need to have certain number of employees, but not for all the occupations.
So
most occupations don't.
Occupations like accountant, if you get sponsored in a metropolitan area, they have a caveat. They're required to have at least 5 employees currently working, and the turnover has to be around $1 million plus. But not for all the occupations.
Other occupations. I've got Devin saying good morning.
Good
Very
morning
good
to
morning
you
to you, Devin. I've got Rizwan's asking, what's the evidence that we provide to immigration to meet the work experience requirement for 482 and 186? Is Engineers Australia employment assessment important? No,
Depends.
Employment assessment is not required, as we explained. We just need a positive skill assessment. They don't need to assess your employment, but we do need to provide employment evidence such as pay evidence, pay slips, employment letters, leaving letters, your CV, that kind of evidence to actually show that you worked, the duration of the work, and that it's permanent full-time. So that is the requirement.
So it's almost the time for us to wrap it up for the day. And it was lovely to have you there, and thank you for sharing your questions, and hope our information was valid for you, and you learned something about from what we discussed, and hope to catch up with you guys next Thursday again at around the same time, around 3 p.m.
And also, I think this will be my last session for a few months to come. I'm going to be off air. So thank you so much for listening to me. And see you sometimes next year.
And until then, stay tuned. If there's any questions, please feel free to be in touch with us. These are our numbers. Somehow we've got a Sri Lankan number came up in there as well from the Sri Lankan office. Please be in touch. Send us an email, call, message, whichever the way. And if you have a migration-related issue, we're here to support. We're here to help you. If we're running late, we're going through a lot of client inquiries and processing applications at the moment. So if you see any delays through emails or WhatsApp messages, because it's multiple ways of contacts, please pick up the phone and call us, and we'll give you a priority. That's not a problem. And until we see you next week, stay tuned, stay touched, have a safe stay, have a good weekend. Our clients from Middle East have a good weekend already. On a Friday, tomorrow you have going for the holiday, but if you're not there, everyone else, look forward to a good weekend. And also don't forget to hit that subscribe button. That helps you and me. Stay tuned. Thanks. Bye bye.